Good morning, everyone. It's December 13th, 2024. We are having our legislative committee meeting for the Colorado Forest Health Council. I'm Chair and Larimer County Commissioner Jody Shad-McNally. Welcome, everyone. We call this meeting to order. And right now we just have, let's see, 3 folks for quorum, correct? So let's go ahead and take roll call anyway, though it will be quick.
Yes, so Samantha Albert, Katie McGrath Novak, Pat Dorsey let us know she wasn't going to be available. Christina Vieri let us know she wasn't going to be available. Commissioner Jody Shad-McNally.
Good.
Good morning, Commissioner. Mark Morgan.
Present.
Good morning. Julie Stencil also said she wasn't going to be available. Commissioner Veronica Medina perhaps might join us. And Allison Lurch.
Okay, so we don't have quite a quorum, but what did we do? Because it would be nice, and I'm assuming Daphne's here for a reason. So
yeah, we had asked Daphne if she was able to hop onto these meetings to start listening into the conversation, and if she was hearing things that sounded great or maybe sounded off a little bit, she could just give us some feedback. So we don't have her for the whole meeting, unfortunately, but I did ask her to hop in.
all right, well, go
One
ahead,
other
Allison,
thing,
sorry.
Commissioner, is and just since we were talking last time about recommendations that might have no or low fiscal impact, or no, like how we having Daphne here when she can, to help us craft and understand what that really means while we move forward.
Okay, I welcome Samantha Albert and Katie McGrath. I do think we have a quorum now. And so let's go ahead and move on, and we'll move quickly because we only have Daphne and Samantha for a little bit. So I would welcome a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting.
That's my official capacity. So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion, deliberation, or changes to the minutes? Okay, all those in favor, aye.
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 Okay, anybody opposed? Minutes are approved. Okay, let's, should we pull up the screen and go through the list quick? And because it sounds like a lot of people have to get out of here in about 25 minutes. So, and I know, Daphne, I hope you can stay at least till 9. That would be great. I don't know what your time frame is, but let's go through the list. So we had our last meeting. We were going to start talking about our list of topics going forward, and it kind of came up about talking about what's the cost of not doing anything. And then we just asked the question of what further questions or information do you need? Oh, and no problems. And Samantha, you're fine. We had a lot of folks who were schedule challenged today. So we got a lot of information. A lot of folks raised their hand and provided a lot of information. Unfortunately, those folks can't be here today that provides this information, but I'm sure they'll be around next time and we can continue this conversation. So let's just start with the Colorado State Forest Service biomass study. And I believe that study, they said the study should be completed by 2025. And is there any way a Colorado policy could support this? Is there a low cost policy? No recommendation at the time, was waiting for the results of the study. And I'll just share that Larimer County study should be wrapped up here at the end of the year and presented at the beginning of the year. So we might have lots of information and studies. So we'll have to wait on that. Second, wildfire ready watersheds future funding. Allison, you brought that information. Do you want to share a little bit about what you learned?
Yeah, absolutely. I contacted Chris Sturm at CWCB, and I believe Christina's original question was about wildfire ready watersheds with implementation of forest health treatments and all of that. And I posed a couple questions to Chris about their funding, and Wildfire Ready Watersheds essentially has sustainable funding through the Colorado Water Plan Grant. If you go into this document, you can check out the link. And they're also they also have some other funding proposed through the Colorado Watershed Restoration Program. And essentially from Chris, he said, right now the program has sustainable funding and does not need additional funding. One thing I want to add to that, sorry, Commissioner, is that one thing we want to make sure that the Forest Health Council is aware of is that COSWAP and Wildfire Ready Watersheds has been partnering on providing forest implementation funding into areas where people are doing Wildfire Ready Watersheds action plans. And so there is some connectivity between both of those programs, and it's a very exciting momentum.
Wonderful. And I'll just warn everyone, I'm kind of a little nauseous this morning, so if I turn off my camera, I'm going to let Allison kind of take over with the list. If all of a sudden I turn off my camera and go, I had to, because I'm feeling pretty nauseous today, so I apologize to share that information, but all of a sudden I'm getting nauseous again. So, all right. So, so thank you for that details. Great to know the connections and the connectivity and the shared stewardship there. That's wonderful. So return on investment, this was a really great conversation I thought we had, and kind of the cost of not doing anything. And so the first was wildfires, estimated cost taxpayers 13-1. Recovery from the 2024 Climate Resiliency Report produced by the U.S. Chamber of Commerce and the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Foundation. So we've been using that money out at Colorado Counties Incorporated and some other things, and it certainly draws some attention to people. I forget where we got a little bit of pushback because they thought that was too low or something, and I'll have to go back and look at my notes, but it was interesting. It did draw attention from some folks. And then Christina shared the Denver Water Return on Investment Water Story study that was, I think it was, I thought already kind of Googled that from then, and it's got a lot of great information. I don't know if we want to look at that when we get through this list. The economic benefit of investing in climate change, that's from the U.S. Chamber. Another simple cost is the cost of mulching after fire is $5,000 per acre versus the cost of treatment for fire. That's a big number right there. There was approximate, but mulching is typically more expensive and not very effective. I know we've been doing a lot of that right in Larimer County after the Cameron Peak fire. Is anything else? Is there anything? Is there any commentary on this? And is this a policy? Is there a way Colorado policy can support this or low cost policy? So any comments or thoughts on that? I didn't know if anyone had a chance to look at some of those documents. There's a lot there, lots of great information. So I'm not sure. Courtney.
I guess I have a question maybe for Daphne. I think the conversation was really around if there are solutions that do cost money, but it would cost more money to not implement the solution, is that something that the council could share with the Wildfire Matters Review Committee sort of as a reason to still spend money on these issues, or in these really tight budget years, like they know ROI exists, but it's not really something they can work beyond? Like, what are your thoughts about this as a tool?
Yeah.
Or like a message?
Good questions, Courtney. I would say I think that it's always appropriate to make a case for these investments, and to the extent that we have, studies like this to point to, data to point to on the return of investment on investment, I think that's compelling and important. I do think that, with a $1 billion deficit in the budget this year, there just is absolutely no spare cash or no spare dollars to, I think, stand up new programs or even expand existing ones. There's some flexibility there if there are, Tabor exempt cash funds that can be tapped into for this purpose, but I don't know that something exists on this particular topic. So my sense is that it would likely rely on general fund dollars. And so I think at this stage and with the budget year ahead, it seems to me like presentations and like starting to build the case for potential policy needs on the subject would be good, but I wouldn't, I wouldn't get hopes up as far as the General Assembly's ability to actually dedicate funding to it, even despite the clear return on investment.
Thanks, Stephanie. Great question, Courtney. Mr. Morgan, I'm going to get you just a second. And I think also we wanted to, from my takeaway from that is we need to keep telling that story, because I think when there's no smoke in the air and no fire, we got to keep that message and beating that drum and making sure folks know that if we don't do anything, there's going to be a high cost down the road, even more than just the recovery costs, the loss of forest and all these things. So I think it's an important message and to share. We have a lot of new legislators coming on board, and I think it's always good to keep sharing that message so the new ones that are coming on, they can hear it and understand and have that tool. So I think it's always important. We never know who we might help plant a seed with, and education, literally plant some trees in their mind about how important this is. So thank you for listening. Mr. Morgan.
Couple of comments real quick. One is cost benefit. With very minor alterations sometimes on Forest Service timber sale offerings, you can move a plan from stewardship back over into a true timber sale where you're receiving funds for the material rather than expending cash to get the work done. And a lot of times that's just some procedural or layout changes. A lot of them are pretty borderline. So if we're trying to get work done, don't forget the classic timber sale offering and lobbying with the Forest Service to correct some of those deficiencies. I think there's a real opportunity there. This region right now, and Colorado especially, are really hard up for volume to support their timber industry. And I think there's a real opportunity there. Another one is that if you want to put that before, I don't want to offer something here, but I spent last night in the Colorado Timber Industry Association meeting, quarterly meeting, and we were planning our legislative reception that we have every year. And we hold that down in somewhere around the Capitol down there. And the whole purpose of that is to network with our elected representatives. And the purpose of that is to help educate them. So if this group wanted to try to do something in conjunction with that or put some materials out there or whatever, that's the whole purpose of it. We have a social down there every year. So that's another thought. If you, because I think that would be important for them. And I think one little aside in this mulching versus timber sale work, there are also alternatives that really haven't been explored to mitigate after a fire between putting mulch on by helicopter and oftentimes you can do manipulations on the ground with the new equipment that is out there that is substantially less costly than helicopter mulching, and oftentimes it's even more effective. And I think that should be looked into as well here as you're making that cost comparison. There are alternatives in between for cost.
Great point.
Everybody totally.
No, I think it makes a great point. And I think you're right. There are maybe other ways we can address this without just throwing, having money to do it. Certainly, I think that's a great point. If we can make a note of that in our notes, and if, Mark, do you have a place we can go and look at those other alternative methods that you say are cheaper than helicopter mulching?
One of the classic ones is contour felling. If you've got dead timber all over a slope and you've got all these standing dead candles, with the new steep ground harvesters, you can contour fell those trees, lay them crosswise to the slope, and they do a great deal to stabilize soil. And you just delim them, fell them, delim them, and leave them on site. You don't harvest it, you leave it there. It's still a treatment, but you can generally do that for about half the price that you can get a helicopter show, and you have people with steep ground harvesters all over Colorado locally that you could hire. You wouldn't have to be bringing in a helicopter show. That would be my first suggestion. And those kind of harvesters, I can provide you with any number of manufacturers that do that. But that's a standard harvesting tool all over this state anymore. And they've got them. And so instead of cutting timber that day for the sawmill, they could be contour felling on a slope to reduce soil erosion after a fire.
Great. Well, certainly something to look at, maybe get some more information about, and thanks for sharing those points, Mark, and great points. Okay, anyone else have anything to say about this topic? So when we talk about, Mark made a great suggestion, when he's got an opportunity to come up and talk with legislators. Certainly as an individual, you can mention you're on it, but you can't say you're representing, but you, as an individual, you can walk around and talk to some of those new legislators. I always share the annual report with any legislator I see. I'm wondering, I do think there's an opportunity with all these new legislators coming in, and I'm wondering if, because they probably haven't received it, I wonder if we could have the annual report sent out to all the legislators at the beginning of session, so they have it, because the new ones, I'm just curious about that. Is that something we could do or ask to be done, or does that have to be voted on, or, because I think that would be helpful.
I think that I think this is probably a more open forum. We're trying to reach out this year, so this will be in conjunction with the lumber producers, and also the Society of American Foresters is a joint sponsor with us for this evening. And so I think it's pretty open for people to drop by, and it's not like you're frozen out or you can't get a ticket to the ball. This is not that kind of an industry show. I mean, there's anybody with interest that's related to any of the efforts down at the Capitol would be invited.
Yeah, that's good to hear, Mark. I was just going to speak to Jody's comment. I imagine we can redistribute the annual report. I'm maybe going to look to Daphne to better understand how that even happens, but I could make a reminder to ask Daphne to do that. Is that appropriate, Daphne, to do that at the beginning of the session?
Yeah, I'm certainly happy to help deliver the report to respective legislators. I'd say that, like, normally, we would probably want to focus that delivery to, like, the committee of reference. So in this case, Wildfire Matters Review Committee or the Ag, Water, and Natural Resources committees. They have started to post new committee assignments for at least the committees of reference that meet during session. We don't yet know what the updated makeup of the Wildfire Matters Review Committee is going to be just yet. So I guess it would be a question for you all to consider. I might, suggest kind of focusing the delivery to those legislators who are going to serve on committees that touch on these topics, as opposed to just sharing it out with all new legislators. But would be interested to hear this group's thoughts on the appropriate audience there. And I'll also just note that we've got our SMART Act presentations in January. And for those of you who aren't familiar with that, it's essentially just a opportunity for all state departments to go before their committees of reference to discuss the work that the department does, the mission of the department, and any highlights of recent work. We are exploring the possibility of folding the State Forest Service into the DNR SMART Act presentation to a higher degree than we have in the past. So I think we could catch some new legislators that are serving on those committees of reference through that platform, and can just make a brief mention of the annual report and make sure that those that are interested receive it afterwards.
I think that's a good suggestion too. I just always think there's folks who vote on things in the general thing that, sometimes they don't ever get a touch or information. And I know, since I know a lot of these folks, I know they're they have focus areas where they're really well, their depth of knowledge or their experience, but having a depth of knowledge on all things is, I figure it's always good information, and it might, I don't know, we're planning to drop a Larimer County legislative agenda to all of them for freshly bounded stuff. So with some interesting data and things. So just so we can kind of keep it in back of mind for everyone. So just a suggestion, I will defer to all of you. I know it costs money, or email them or something. I don't know. I think it'd be great to pull it in front of them. So,
We find as an industry group that we get a lot better response in a relaxed atmosphere where these legislators can ask questions of us and ask questions of a variety of other people. So you have usually, like I say, the Society of American Foresters is usually in there with us. So they have federal foresters, state foresters, private. It's really, and they generally mingle and go through there, and they essentially are searching for information from a variety of sources. And so I think it's that low key back and forth response that has been really effective for us in the past. So anyway.
Well, Mark, if you want to send us the date or send a date to Courtney when that is and where it's at, then we can send it out. And I mean,
Probably going to be at the Colorado History Museum this year. We're changing the venue because we want it within walking distance of the Capitol. And that's what we were discussing last night.
Cool.
So I can send that to you, yes.
That would be great. And just to remind everyone, we can't really officially go and say you're representing the council, but you could go as an individual and share your thoughts. Is that correct, Allison? Just want to make sure we're clear. We're not going to represent, but we can share. Okay. All right, let's move on to the next one, because I know we have about 7 minutes before some people have to leave. So the next one was low risk, high reward opportunities in reference to Pat's comments about homeowner mitigation efforts being leveraged as a match for federal funding. And so there was a question, is there an opportunity for us to qualify the homeowners mitigation efforts and use as a match? Is there a way Colorado policy can support this? Is there a low cuts policy? And they said match is critical for grants, non-federal match for federal dollars or independent investments for furworm or other Colorado State Forest Service grants. For smaller organizations and individuals, it's awful difficult to find matching dollars for grants. Yes, we all are very painfully aware of that from a lot of our partners. In the past, we have looked for opportunities within the RMRI, for example, where we could capitalize on the investments of partners to help match federal and state dollars. For example, the Colorado Parks and Wildlife does a project on state wildlife area where they gain cash and as habitat stamp finding. This state wildlife area is adjacent to a private land parcel that is eligible for a federal grant. So, or a subdivision has many volunteer hours on a project over what they might need for a grant. Can the initial hours be used by their neighboring subdivision for a grant? And knowing the work in one subdivision could benefit the other. And I suppose there's some unused match available. However, I don't know if there's a good system for tracking in kind and cash investments that might be used within Pacific landscape for match. We could create some kind of match clearinghouse or database to find matching grant funds simpler. And as an example, think about additional funding that could come to state or county if Excel's work could be used as a match for the federal grant. And then think about the ability to support public support, the increased public support for Excel's work if they could be leveraged to do more. And so from the Excel website, they've invested over $500 million in a wall. I'm sorry, I missed something. I was just reading off the line to make sure I didn't miss a comment. Okay. To protect, our homes, customers, and businesses, that's a lot of money. And can livestock grazing be included as in kind under some circumstances to pay? Sometimes we pay people to graze, and whatever if the permittee pays to graze. And could we use? I was just looking into Lockheed Martin's financial contribution to match as much as work on neighboring and state lands. I don't know if you saw the goats. They just released 1,200 goats into an area. I think that's around Lockheed Martin. I forget what county it was. I was just fascinated with how the goats kind of filtered into that. That was just recent. Go to Instagram. It keeps popping up in my feed. I wonder why, since I look a lot of wildfire stuff. So any comments on this? I do know that with the broadband grants and stuff, we did, because we did some work in partnership, we could use our in-kind or already used work to leverage towards the grants, since there's a zero match, 15 and 10 and 15% and 20% matches, and some people don't have the level of matches, so they can't put in the money, so they've been able to leverage some in-kind for some of the BEAD grant stuff, as I understand it. But I'm just curious what y'all think about this. I wonder if that's something we could ask the Leveraging Resources Committee, since they're looking at leveraging resources. That's something they could look into to kind of help us think about how we could help folks. If they don't have money for grant matches, maybe they could find other ways. I'm curious about that. Maybe that's something we could share in our discussion with them. That's what I was thinking. Any comments? There's a lot of people doing a lot of work across the whole state, and it's maybe it's great to have it be a credit towards other work to show other work is happening. I'm not sure how that would look, but I think that's a great idea. Courtney?
Yeah, I'm just brainstorming, thinking about how, I know this council can't, well, I don't think it can influence federal funding requirements and match and things like that, but we can perhaps influence state funding and like those match requirements. And I know that COSWAP already has, I would think, pretty like generous match policies in terms of like lots and lots of things are eligible. I'm wondering, like, is there a possible piece of legislation that like it requests that other funding sources have like more gentle or easy, I don't know what to say, but match requirements that are easier for people to meet, perhaps like more in-kind than cash match requirements or something. I'm wondering if there's something the council can do around that.
Yeah, let's make a note about that. Allison?
Just briefly, at the Leveraging Resources Committee meeting, Courtney, on Monday, that was brought up. Match was a big item. Most of the discussion was about eliminating, reducing, or just making match less of a burden. And especially for organizations that need to be able to obtain more money through grants, but don't or can't because they don't have the match to be able to ask for more money.
Like Jackson County, they have 1,500 or 1,300 residents, but they have a lot of risk and forest. So I think about smaller, they have smaller smaller tax bases, but we all neighbor them. And so it'd be prudent and wise to look at how we can help them leverage that. So maybe that's something we can explore more since they're looking at too. Mr. Morgan. And if you have to all leave, I know some of you had to leave at 9. You don't have to. And thanks for the conversation, Samantha. We're going to put these all in. I don't think we're taking a vote today. I think we're just trying to talk through these. So I'm sure the minutes will come out. Thank you. Happy holidays. Thanks for being here. Okay. Mr. Morgan.
Very quickly, on Tuesday at the Intermountain Forest Association, our annual meeting with the region of the Forest Service, I think do not undersell the ability of the state to help direct funding programs at the federal level, because one of the major discussions there was Colorado is one of the largest users of Good Neighbor Authority for doing work on the forest. And Director McCombs brought up the fact that 40% of the Colorado state budget for forestry still originates with the federal Forest Service programs. And so I think if we don't influence the federal utilization of funds, we're not going to be successful in what we try to do. So I think we have to lobby, and I think we have to work at that level. And the thrust of that meeting was how much more work the Colorado State Forest Service was going to take on and assume from the Federal Forest Service. And the thrust of that discussion was how much authority the Forest Service was going to give up. They were basically going to give up authority, provide funding And then the boots on the ground utilization of that funds was going to come through the state of Colorado. And Director McComb stepped up in a big way there. And it was all about, that meeting was all about how to facilitate that. So I think we should really look real hard at what we can do with the feds. I think it's going to become critical. And this the exact opposite direction that the Forest Service and the State Forest Service right now are currently taking. So step up and get your oar in the water. I think. And so I just think that this week for me has been one meeting after another. And I'm not that kind of guy, but they all stacked one on top of the other. And this is the last one. And a lot of people have similar thoughts, but it's how to do more with less and get the people who have the ability and the funding to get out doing the work. And I think I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Mr. Morgan. I think that's going to be the tagline or the theme of 2025, shared stewardship, doing more with less. So, that'll be our theme for the year. Or, they have the words for the year or something that will be our tagline, I think. All right. Well, great points. And I think, sounds like you've been at some really powerful meetings that have some great information to share. So, I would love to have that date and share some more things, and maybe we can all join you or learn some of the things that you have been hearing about. So that's great. Any other comments on this? I do think this is it sounds like leveraging resources too has this. So maybe we can talk about some ideas for legislation. So, and maybe Daphne, I don't know if Daphne heard any of that. Maybe she has before she left. So maybe she can, maybe she'll come back to you and Courtney, Allison, to kind of give some ideas. So number 5, is there a way Colorado policy can support this in a low cost policy from the cost of watershed protection? So something that we're also looking at, we just approved our water master plan for the county. I think we're one of the first counties in the state to do this. Oh, and I'm sorry, Commissioner Medina, I didn't see you had joined us. So welcome and happy Friday. We're glad to see you. We have this plan, and it's a great plan. We worked really hard. It's got a lot of action steps, but now we need the money to implement it. And so everything always costs money, of course. So from Christina Berry, the deputy state forester, there's really no hard and fast number for the cost benefit of watershed protection because of the unique water delivery systems in Colorado. The Denver Water Return on Investment study is specifically for Denver watersheds, but a good example to show case would be for the $33 million invested. They received in the watershed, they received about $240 million return on investment, and that's a big number. Another example is Northern Water spending about $100 million in recovery costs after East Troublesome, and for more qualitative cost benefit is some talking points. And I know we had brought that up in our study. Once ours is kind of all the finalized things are done, I can send that all to you. But the City of Loveland and us are partnering on emergency watershed protections within NRCS, and that's like right into the City of Loveland's main water area, right over the Alexander Mountain Fire. As you know, that was right onto the Big Thompson and into that watershed. So anyway, back to this list. Many Colorado reservoirs have excellent to pristine water quality for drinking water and recreation. However, with fire, reservoirs could experience persistent water quality issues that could last in perpetuity. Like, for example, harmful algae blooms after a fire, which impacts drinking water and treatment, as well as recreation. And spores of algae blooms last 50 years. I didn't know it was that long. And it is very unlikely to eradicate harmful algae blooms once they establish. And water quality is very valuable, and storage capacity and reservoirs is very valuable. And after fire, sediment debris can take up valuable storage in the reservoirs, therefore reducing water quality for Coloradans. Dredging a reservoir can be extremely costly and is only a temporary fix. Wow, $18 million in dredging Saratoga Springs, Denver Water spent around 2013, and it was a fail. a failed temporary fix. Dredging today can cost millions of dollars depending on the amount of material and reservoir location. So protecting infrastructure from impacts of fire is key. And I don't know how to quantify that. It might be time it would take, and the time it would take to replace a reservoir dam. So dam safety, yeah, and we're seeing that here in Larimer County. Even 4 years after the Cameron Peak fire this summer, after some heavy rainfalls, the Fort Collins had shut off their intake in Greeley from the Poudre River because it was like chocolate milk. So it's still impactful and something that I think we'll be working on for the rest of my lifetime, recovering from that place. So from that fire. So I think, is there a way to keep so I see this, and I think this is really important about how we can, I see this as another shared stewardship thing. How do we partner with watershed coalitions, water providers, and others? Because I think this is a strength in numbers kind of effort to, and I don't know what that looks like without having a low cost policy, but it might be an opportunity to bring people together to look at partnerships of how we can work together across the state. So I think about Colorado Springs water presentation, the Yampa River, our presentation from Larimer County, and Denver water. And I'm just wondering how what we could do or what we need to, and that might be also telling the story again, but maybe I don't know if we need to have more information from, just thinking what could be a policy that we could look at, but I know this is something that should be addressed. I'm just not sure if it's a piece of legislation to address this. It might be a bigger thing. So I don't know what you all think about that.
Well, I just think there's connectivity between a few of these that we've got more information on. And Courtney's scrolling down, but I wanted to look back up to like when we didn't actually get some information from the outdoor Colorado, the outdoors strategy, but I will get some to you. But there's just incredible connectivity right now that is needed, and it goes back to this lack of funding as well, between how we can all better collaborate, right? Or be strategic with our funding, figure out where we really need to do the work in the right place, how we can still keep our momentum, how, as Mark mentioned, how we can utilize systems that are in place that cost less money, that increase our economy. And so, Jody, I don't have a direct answer for you about how this goes into like a lower no cost legislation, but I think I'm just feeling a theme here. And I think once we get through our full list, I think we can connect a lot of these dots, and we just need to keep talking about it a little bit more. We would love to see more, for COSWAP and Wildfire Ready Watersheds to partner. That was something that was told to us, that like most state programs don't partner together. And it's like both of our groups just love working together and love doing that. And so we're now going to engage with more water utilities through COSWAP as well. And, maybe we can oh boy, of course. So low. Maybe we can bring in some water providers, or we can talk a little bit more about all of this. I'm really sorry. I'm house sitting a small dog that barks at the air.
No worries. Mine were like in my lap at the beginning of the meeting, just kind of like whining. So I didn't know if you heard them. They're literally right here, both of them. They're like right here with their heads. And I was like, go away. So,
well, when they bark, they make me lose my thought. So I hope something came out of that, and let's consolidate what we have and try and figure out how we can connect water, forest, and forest health.
I think that's a great presentation, a great thought, and I agree with you 100%. I think individually individually, these are all like, well, okay, I'm not sure we pulled together, but I think you're right. If we pull all these connections and these dots together, that I think there will be something, but this is all so important. It's just, these are all the billion-dollar questions, right? And billion-dollar solutions. So how do we figure that out? Mr. Morgan.
One quick comment. The discussions this week, there's a huge emphasis on forestry and fuels management in Colorado right now. And a lot of us in the industry were talking last night, and I think it would not be, I think there are probably 10 to 20 people planning what we should do for every person that's actually out there doing something. And so as we have connectivity or whatever we have to have a delivery system, and we have to streamline that a lot, because we're real deep in committees and planning and councils and programs and working together. But at some point, we have to have a streamlined delivery system where we get this work done on the ground. And I believe right now, our best chance for doing that is probably going to be through the state and the State Forest Service. I think actual boots on the ground work is going to be centered more and more at a state level and less at a federal level. So, but I mean, we have to get some people out there doing this right now. It's I guess what I'm trying to say is, let's get some projects, take action, do something. And it's an old saying, but do something even if it's wrong. And if it's wrong, let's correct it, tweak it, fix it. But let's center our efforts on things that actually do projects on the ground, to start doing the work you want to do. I've been watching this, all of the groups here, and we keep reaching out to new groups and bringing people in. That's great that we get their buy-in, but at some point we got to go to work here. And I guess that's what industry is looking for. What direction do you want to go? What tools should we buy? How can we go about getting the work done? That may not make sense to you, but it does to us. I hope it makes sense to you.
No, it makes sense. You're right. There's a lot of talk. There's always a lot of talk and planning, but we gotta have some action out of that. And I think that's what has been the beauty of CoSwap and Furworm. It's getting the work and the action out there to go, because I see projects happening all the time. But I think you're right, Mr. Morgan. Just you're looking for something that is actually going to, you want to find some solutions that actually, what I'm hearing is you want to find us to look for some solutions where actually it's going to have the action of actually action happening on the ground. And I think that's a good point for us to remember. There's a lot of people planning and collaborating and doing plans together, but maybe not everyone is, it's not, it's always not, we do this and then the action happens on the ground. It's that maybe we need to figure that out. So too, but we're not gonna be able to figure this all out, but we're just trying to provide some suggestions and ideas. But looking forward to that opportunity to come with you to Denver and chat. So, all right. So we have how many? Oh, good. We have U.S. Forest monitoring attended. How can those two seasonal employees have such a big impact? Is this chain with save? Allison, you want to go ahead and talk now?
Yeah, Courtney reached out to Matt Tootin, and he wasn't able to give a response, and suggested we go to Troy, the regional forester. And so I've got a message out to Troy to see his thoughts on this, and so we can get that in a bit.
Excellent. Great. We got lots of great opportunities with lots of subject matter experts that can help us kind of sort through this, but yeah, we're getting a lot of information now. We just got to find some suggestions. And I'm so grateful for your service on this council, Mark. It's just really huge to bring that kind of practical boots on the ground perspective. I really appreciate that. All right. So this is one that I was really wondering about. And this is the one you're talking about, was that just reaching out to them. But we had that as a commissioners too. We talked about at the conference, there's some of these programs where, some of those, a lot of people are worried about the U.S. Forest Service and what's happening. they know some of those programs of having, can we help play for interns or find money for programs to get some of the volunteers up there to do, so we don't discontinue that valuable work, because I think that was a huge return on investment, having two young, seasonal, I guess, rangers. I'm not sure what their title was, but be out there and catch 30 fires. That to me is immeasurable. And so is that something that, I don't know how we can see if we can partner, I don't know, just something to think about. I know we have a bunch of Poudre Wilderness volunteers here in Larimer County, and they're out every Wednesday doing Weed Wednesdays, and they're up pulling weeds, and they're up patrolling, and I have a friend, she does that every week. And so it's all volunteer. So I'm just curious about that. So, I mean, they're dedicated folks. And so lots of stories there that they encounter. So great outdoor strategy. We're still waiting for that. Yeah. So, and number 8, Good Neighbor Authority spelled out the points about how this is, is there any policies? So here's some from Everett. So I don't want to keep reading everything. So let's just go. It's working. It's one of the most effective tools we have. And I think demonstrated successes over 15,000 acres completed under contract across land, over 200 million board feet of federal timber delivered to the industry, $2 million gross revenue, and the completed well, Tin, GNA, and Breckenridge was credited by firefighters and crucial in helping them contain a fire that's contained this summer that I know Dan Gibbs uses that. And then what we're doing is working on protecting communities and watersheds. So we'll go ahead and Mark, let you have your comments, and then we'll go through some of these recommendations.
Keep it short. Just an aside, at the regional meeting on Tuesday with Forest Service, Wyoming and South Dakota were there obviously as well. And Wyoming uses their Good Neighbor Authority agreements. Their Good Neighbor Authority, they've used it extensively, and every project that they've done up there has actually been revenue positive. It's not revenue drain. They've been working and looking for opportunities, and their whole program has been revenue positive. And so I think there's a model there. Good Neighbor Authority is a tremendous tool, and it's really successful in Colorado. Colorado pretty well leads the nation, and I think we can do a lot more with it to assist industry and assist this organization in getting the management work done on the ground. But I think you also need to look at that as an opportunity to raise revenue for other things that you need to do.
I think it was, and Mr. Morgan mentioning Wyoming, because he said Wyoming and South Dakota were there.
Yeah.
So I thought there were some good recommendations in here, and I think we also still need to tell that story to legislators and other people in the community about this. This is an important story to tell. And so I think along with the return on investment, I think this shared stewardship and this GNA is just a really important story to pull together, and we beat that drum all the time. So I think, yeah, I agree. We're leaving work on the table and are investing in GNA. So we have led the nation on getting more work done, but other states are taking it a next step. So that would be my thing, is how can we take it to the next step? So what does that look like? Is it a policy thing? Is it, I know it's a funding thing, but is there some policy things that we can do that are low income? So that's my question, is what can we do there to take that next step? Because I thought this was really an important one. We had some great recommendations. So yeah. What is everyone's thoughts on that?
I have a suggestion or an answer.
Sure.
That's what I was trying to allude to earlier. We have to affect federal policy and federal legislators to promote this. That's how we're going to get it done. That's why I was suggesting that connection, that we can't walk away from that or not be able to do it. That's exactly the pressure point that we need to work on, I guess, is what I'm suggesting. And I think they're willing, and I think they're interested. So that's the story we have to sell, and that's where we have to sell it. So
Is there a what? Oh, I'm sorry. Is there a way we can, is it looking at GNAs from those other, is it just their state funding is more increased, or any of their policies or programs different than what we have? I know that we're leading the way in some ways, but is there things, lessons learned or exemplars from those other states or Wyoming that we could, that's not like, hey, they put more money into it? Because that we know that is the issue, also the issue, but do we know if there's, Mark or anyone have any ideas if there's something policy wise other than the state run NEPA and all that? Any other little tidbits in there that makes it unique or special?
I want to be as positive. I don't want to be negative here. There's a lot of people all working on this right now, and the Forest Service regional foresters, they're looking at the cost for this work as well. And they realize they have to step back and streamline what they need to do because their stewardship costs are going through the roof. And they realize right now that they need to streamline that whole process. And other forests do not have the fuel support. Wyoming has to run a cost plus program because that's all they've got. That's what their forester has to work with. So they look for those opportunities. They're looking for opportunities right now where they can meet management goals, use GNA, and get harvesting work done on the ground and be revenue positive. And so, and much the same way in South Dakota. And so I think, I guess I'm trying not to be negative here, but I think right now is the time. The Federal Forest Service is obviously in a big tight right now for money but right now is the very time that makes an opportunity where they're interested or looking for opportunities to still get their work done. And I think now's a great time to lobby them to turn this work over under GNA to the state. And that way the state has more control of what actually happens on the ground. Oftentimes in the past, Good Neighbor Authority projects were the crumbs or the second class operations. And now they're realizing that the state can take control of a whole lot of activities that are really large projects and important projects, and that they're capable of doing it. And Director McCombs has demonstrated that ability. And I think they're going to be reaching out I think they're going to do a great deal more. And I think the State Forest Service is ready to do that. And I'm looking for ways that we can move that along. It's what we need to get done. And I think they've got to turn over the authority and the state has to take it and run with it. And I think the State Forest Service is doing just exactly that. Anything we can do to help them would be positive. And anything you could do to lobby the feds to do that is positive. And I think they've come to that conclusion as well.
Great, Mark. Thank you. That's a great point again. Courtney, your hand is raised.
Yeah, I'm just hearing what Mark is saying about how Wyoming and other states have been successful with GNA, and for us to not increase the amount of money that is coming from maybe the general fund. Is there a way to have a policy change that encourages more of these revenue positive projects so that revenue can fund more forestry work? Is that a way to have a no cost policy? And I know that, of course, like, we're really, really focused on doing the right acres, the right prescription, the right location. So I would not be implying that we should just switch to doing like the easy and inexpensive acres, but is there a way to have like a slight policy shift, management shift? And I don't know if that's true. We probably need some more expert advice, but that was an idea.
You have grasped the problem perfectly there. And economics, you work with what you have available right now. So they're focusing on areas that would be revenue positive when they're doing their layout work. And they're looking for opportunities where they can have a timber sale, get the management work they've done that they want, and be positive. And it's just a matter of focusing where you can be effective right now. Right now, in times of low income or short money, that's where you go. when you've got funding and you've got cash, you go back to your pay to manage acres. And I think that can happen in Colorado as well.
Great. Again, I think this is a great point. And I think earlier before you had mentioned, Courtney, you thought this one sounded like another good idea. So I hope you're highlighted or put those as pulled that out. I think this is another one. I think it's a great point when there's stresses and pressures, people might be more apt to, reducing barriers and partnering and finding solutions. So I think that's a great one. So I do think we'll probably need some, we might need another subject matter expert or some more information to kind of look into that, but I know what that looks like. But we know we have just a couple of minutes. Can we kind of look at the Pat Dorsey's on number 9 and that one, and then Stuart Comshe. Do we want to just leave those conversations for the next meeting, because everyone's kind of dropped off, and I hate to go. There's some good things here too, and so I just don't want to continue that. Has this been helpful today, everyone, to kind of flesh these out a little bit more and talk about this? Should we go ahead and continue this for the next meeting? We have a couple we've pulled out as possible ideas. What do you think?
I think it's been very helpful, Commissioner. And I wonder if for some of the ones that we actually came into a deeper discussion and sort of some, at least when we had a quorum of people all here to say, oh, that was a good one, or yeah, we like that one, and I think we have things on our list that are not going to be turned into legislative recommendations, and we have items that could be. So we could also consolidate our list for the next meeting, and we could start with the ones we didn't get to, and then come back to some of the juicy discussion that we just had today.
I think that's great. And I think also, I think those other discussions about just the messaging and return on investment and the watersheds and all that, I think we can pull those off, and maybe we share with the Forest Health Council. We think this is something we all need to keep talking about everywhere we go, kind of that. And I know we can get the council to agree on these are kind of important messages along with everything else, and maybe get some approval to kind of be talking about specifics. And so, and maybe this also goes into the 30-year plan too. I don't know.
I was thinking about that as well. Yeah, that's what I was thinking about.
I also wanted us to just look at the calendar.
Yep, that was my next question. I'm sorry. I'm texting Congressman DeGoose because I'm gonna be late for his thing today. But go ahead. I was just gonna say that because we were supposed to probably be during the week of Christmas, so that's canceled. So yeah, so the 10th.
So the 10th, and then on the 24th, we wanted to finalize recommendations and send them to the council, because on the 6th, we have our, the 6th of February, our quarter one. So I don't know if you guys feel like we're on track, or if maybe we should add another meeting, perhaps in January on the 17th or the 31st.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what y'all think. I just know we're coming up.
No, I was thinking the same thing, and I was thinking on the 10th we could make it an hour-and-a-half meeting, maybe.
I like that idea. I think that's a good idea.
Hour-and-a-half, and then and let's go ahead and put it on the calendar for the 17th. We could make it just an hour, but an hour and a half on the 10th, but we can always add or take off and cancel it in between. But I think it's easier to add right now than to take away. But I do think we're getting slowly there, but we're having some really powerful conversations. And so I think it's important to kind of provide that. And I think everyone will be not as distracted with the holidays and ready to get back into the meat of this. So I think that's a great thing. Is that okay? Can Courtney, you won't mind, and Elsa mind sending that out? We're going to add on 17th and go to hour and a half, and maybe just a happy holidays, everyone. And I wish you all the best. I wish I was up where this picture is, and up there with the mountain and the snow and the fires and all that. So, but just really appreciate you all and the things you do. And this is really powerful conversations. I see things there, but it's so hard to find something low hanging fruit here. So that's with the big impact. So, anyway, anything else for the good of the group? Well, everyone, I hope you have a wonderful holiday. Please take care of yourselves, nurture, joyful, restful, and happy new year. Thank you, Katie, and just wish you all the best. And Katie and Allison, if you need to reach me in between, I'm still kind of working every single day. So feel free to, if I don't respond, I'll get to it. But anyway, happy holidays. And I'll just